Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Growth Execution Podcast. My name's Mal McCallion. I'm your host here to discuss with entrepreneurs, growth leaders throughout the land, throughout the world, who have been where you are and have found solutions to problems that you may have right now. This is the third season of the Growth Execution Podcast, and we're really focused on launching businesses right now. And I'm delighted to be joined by Olivia Stefanino. Olivia, how are you?
I'm fantastic, excited to be here, looking forward to seeing what's going to unfold.
Yeah, likewise. Listen, I'm really grateful for your time already. So one of the things we're really very obsessed with, as I say here, is about the kind of launch process itself. I wonder, what drew you into the entrepreneurial game and how did you launch your business?
Oh, those are great questions. I have to say the entrepreneurial game means that you launch several businesses, doesn't it? Why have only one when you can have several along the way? So, but you know all about that. So I think it's that desire to create something, that desire to stand alone, to be the kind of have your own sovereignty, isn't it? So you get to have an idea, see who that target audience is that you could do something amazing for, you can make a difference and actually make a difference in your own life as well, and kind of to grow it and to see who you can collaborate with along the way. And actually it's safer, I think, as well, being an entrepreneur, because you've got many clients as opposed to one employer. So I think even if you're very security conscious, I still think that actually that route is something, a good place to go.
It's kind of a diversification of risk, essentially, is that what you're saying? Yeah. And it is really interesting as well about now, because there are a lot of people for whom, we're talking in February now, 2021. The pandemic in the UK is still raging around us. And there are a lot of people, I'm sure, who have been thinking about, what has happened to them over the last year has been in other people's hands. And actually they've perhaps had to worry more than they would have done if they were on their own. Do you think, when you think it was sort of those kinds of people, what would you advise them to kind of focus on if they were thinking around their own launch?
I think the first thing always with the business, and it might be that you start with a side hustle if you have got a job, rather than throwing all caution to the winds and then finding there's a lot more hard work that goes into it all than you realize. But I think the first thing always to start with, for me anyway, is the audience. Who is it that you're going to be working with, and how tightly can you narrow down that niche so that you're not just trying to do something that's going to appeal to everybody? Because I can guarantee you, if it appeals to everybody, it'll appeal to nobody. So it's really about, particularly now, really niching down who is it you serve. And sometimes the easiest way to work that out is thinking about, who do I not work with? Who can I not help? And what problems do I not help with? And then you can, out of that actually comes, so what problems am I solving? And who can I really help? And that almost creates the what that comes out of it. As far as I can see, very often people start with the, I rather fancy doing this, and build a load of this, or kind of come out of their employment and then decide that I could do it better than the boss. But actually, that's not the same thing at all. And I do think we're going to be going much more into really small niche things. I think it was Chris Anderson, wasn't it, that wrote the book, The Long Tail? And it's really about there being plenty for everyone, but be really, really niched. So that's, I think, where I'd start. What about you?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that if you do go too broad, it's that kind of master of none, jack of all trades. I think that you can very easily get swept into just kind of being a commodity, and there on that field plays many people, and some of them much better resourced than you, some of them been in the game a lot longer than you. When you are coming fresh, I agree with you. I think that you've really got to think about what it is that you are here to do and who are the people you are here to serve. And one of the things I've really focused on as well is the why. And thinking about kind of your business. Well, why are you solving the problem that you're solving?
Wow, that's a good one, isn't it? I think for me, business is actually a lot about people, and I think it's going to become more that way. Because I think there's so much along automation and AI and all sorts of other things that, in fact, what as humans we're going to be missing is having that personal approach, somebody that we can actually make a relationship with. So I think we should be able to use all of the technology, the fabulous technology underpinning our business, but that isn't what the business is about. It's actually about how we connect and understand ourselves and other people. And I've been in the kind of field of sort of understanding emotions, psychology, money, everything else. And then I decided that, you know, there are lots of different fabulous systems out there for understanding yourself better, but nothing was actually built around money. And everybody deals with money. We're all dealing with money, whether we're in business, whether we're employed, whether we're going to the shops to buy a packet of biscuits. Money is still that transactional tool. So we all deal with money. And I think money might be one of the greatest teachers out there, hidden in plain sight, because it reflects back to us what we feel about ourselves. And it also helps us to understand other people better as well. So the money types themselves, which, as you can see in the book behind me, that's all about understanding ourselves and each other through the medium of money. And it's a really powerful tool, and it creates a really fast, quick language as well. So I'm really juiced about that. I also had a terrible relationship with money as I was kind of growing up. So I went very, very close to that whole bankruptcy bit in 2008. So I've learned about money. I was kind of pushed into learning about money. I also worked in a lot of sectors that deal with money, even in the financial services sector. So I've kind of got all that spectrum, that journey from ouch to, okay, maybe I need to learn about this and actually see what was going on within me and other people I could see that were struggling as well. And now I get to go, it's that why, isn't it? Now I get why I did it, because I went through all of that. So now as we're into this kind of COVID time, people are still having those same experiences. So perhaps if we can kind of plug that gap, get that understanding so that we can make a massive difference, that really juices me.
I love the idea of kind of money as being a sort of language and a kind of concept, a great trainer as well. You know, actually, as you say, so many people just don't kind of sit and think about it. It's just kind of that thing that almost, you know, kind of just drifts through and on. And then that's a difficult thing when something like a pandemic or a 2008 financial crunch hit. And you didn't come to this, and I'd love to talk about the avatars you've got behind you very soon. But you didn't come to kind of the entrepreneurial journey in a broadly traditional way, did you? You were involved in a number of different sort of enterprises before, is that right?
I don't think any entrepreneur comes to anything in any kind of normal way, do we? But perhaps we're all normal in our non-normalness or in our creativity or diversity or whatever the words are. Yeah, I was a journalist actually, so I trained. I don't have to have the answers. I just need to know which questions to ask. And a bit like you say, actually, it's about understanding why some people succeed and other people fall by the wayside. And I got to see that when I was editing a couple of business magazines. And I was happily got to interview people like Sir Richard Branson, but also local businesses as well. And you could see what people focused on would either make it a success or it wouldn't. And if you have too much ego in there, then it doesn't work if you're doing it for the wrong reasons. But if you're doing it to serve a particular niche group, if you're doing it for a bigger why, and it's not just you that you're trying to make rich, but you're actually trying to look after your community and kind of beyond that, that's where the success started coming in. So for me, yes, journalism, yes, I've been down the world as to leadership, executive coaching, all of those kinds of things as well. When you look backwards, my career makes sense. At the time, maybe it didn't, but now it kind of makes sense looking back at it. So it was all of that really that kind of fueled the learning, if you like, the observation, the questions that enabled me to put the money types together.
Yeah, fantastic. And look, let's talk about the money types. So, I'm delighted to have been through this process and discovered I'm a magician, which is a very exciting thing for me to discover. So what type is that, and how can other people find what their money types are?
Well, the magician, we have 6 money types, and the magician is obviously one of them. And unlike many of these systems, you can be all 6. So you have a different score for all of them. So it's not that you're just a magician at the expense of something else. Having had the pleasure of having a chat with you before and having looked at your website and all those kinds of exciting things, you have to have magician architect, because with the magician, it's about having that vision, those ideas, lots and lots of ideas, and being able to kind of create something that is just an opportunity and turning it into something that's real. And with that architect in place as well, then you'll have a very good idea of the systems, the processes, the approach to take. So you'll be very, very good at that. You'd be very pleased to know that I interviewed somebody very senior in one of the major banks down in London who had the same configuration as you with that high magician architect. So they are great at spotting the opportunity, knowing what needs to happen, and putting in place and being able to delegate. If you have a high magician, which is very creative, loads of ideas, so many ideas that you can hardly keep up with them all, Not always, because I'm a high magician as well, not always are we great at actually unpacking everything in every single detail for other people.
I'm glad you got to the downside. Yes, this sounds brilliant also.
Often we can't understand what other people can't see because it's so blindingly obvious, which can then lead to us sounding a tad exasperated, irritated, and I can only say this louder now because I don't get what you don't get. Am I hitting a nerve there?
Do you know what? This is like a mirror being reflected right at me.
But also with that magician, often we're great starters, but unless you've got that architect to come in and finish it, you've got, the world is peppered with these great ideas that never actually come to fruition. So you need that architect to come and finish. And if you don't have a high architect, then go find someone else who has and JV with them, because that's kind of what makes sense. So, everybody uses their strengths rather than trying to train themselves in what they're not so good at, which is often what happens in business as well, that I'm not very good at that, I'll go and get more coaching on that. Well, that can just get you to a mediocre level rather than getting to where you could be. Magicians also tend to talk in shorthand. So you and I, get what I mean? I've never finished that sentence, but you know exactly where I was going.
Absolutely. Already nodding along and yes, waiting for the next bit. Yeah, absolutely.
Which is great if we share the same values and the same vision. But if we don't, that can lead to misunderstanding as well. So if you like and trust people, then you can get to that kind of really quick shorthand, which can be very frustrating for other people, either who don't get it or who don't have it unpacked enough. And if you're dealing with somebody who is very high architect, but with not such a high magician, they actually, weird as this might sound to you and I, they think that we're a bit flaky because we can't explain everything every step of the way, and that we have
insulted.
And that we haven't actually made it clear that other people can delegate, or how to delegate it to other people with a system and a process that they can follow, which can have our eyes kind of contra-rotating in frustration at that. But there are also, is that ringing a bell? I'll tell you about the others.
Yeah, please. And look, so what I love about this, Olivia, is that it also, from a systemization point of view, actually what you're doing is making this the products that you sell attractive to all different groups, giving me something that I recognize, so it's hyper personal. And as a kind of lead magnet, and for entrepreneurs out there, what you're doing is you're really drawing me into your process and the products that you serve. I already know are going to help me because you know much about me. What other types are there, and how do you leverage off the back of those as well?
Oh, you ask great questions. You could have been a great journalist too.
I did edit the student newspaper a long time ago. Anyway.
Okay, that figures. So the other four then, and they all have a light and a shadow side, by the way. So they all have their attributes, but also the things that can trip us up. So starting then, we have the pharaoh. So the pharaoh actually is the leader. It's the one that should be there going, this is how we do things in Malland. This is how things are going to be. This is where I'm about. This is what I'm going to, this is where my boundaries are. This is what we do. This is how we don't do it, and being the figurehead of it. That's the light side. The light side is actually quite rare because often it's the shadow side of the pharaoh that comes out, which is the one that says, we've got to do it my way or the highway, or I'm right, you're wrong, and throws its weight around and is demanding, can be almost a bit narcissistic, and can actually upset a lot of apple carts. And they're fine so long as they're the ones that are being bowed and scraped to, but not necessarily rolling their shirt sleeves up and actually getting on with it. And I'm sure we've all one of those.
I suspect a number of listeners will be nodding along, going, "Yeah, I think I've worked with people like that," because I know I certainly have.
You may think so. I
Naming no names.
Comment.
Anybody I've worked for, I love you all.
But actually, that possibly is what flicks people to go over into. Do you know what? I'm done with this. I'm going to go start my own business as well. So
be their own pharaoh.
But actually, the thing with the pharaoh is that because we end up starting our own businesses thinking, I'll never be like that, I don't ever want to be like that, we push it away, which actually stops us stepping into our power, because the fear of being like them stops us actually taking command and deciding how things are going to be. So we do need to learn to step into that pharaoh. It does have its own gifts that it comes with it.
Yeah, wow.
So then we've also got the Joker, which is literally just behind me. And the Joker is the one who loves to connect people with people and people with ideas. So they're the world's orators, the salespeople, the people that everyone loves to hang around. And they're great fun to have around, fairly obviously, but they're often the ones who live very much in the moment and don't plan for the future. So they can find that they have a lot of people hanging around them for today because, hey, you can connect me to lots of people. You've got a great black book. Or you'll always put your hand in your pocket to pay for drinks when we can get out, etc., etc. But actually, when they're not able to do that anymore, or they run out of money, everybody just runs for the hills because their use, which they don't always see, what they're bringing to other people, can have quite a short currency. So that can then lead to the joker having to work longer and harder than everyone else because they hadn't put money aside for their future, etc. So there are, as always, these kind of ups and downs with it.
Yeah, wow.
And the jokers can also have a very high optimism, which is great and very infectious, but also it can tip over into being unrealistic. So often over promises and under delivers, which can really hack clients off or colleagues off as well. So that's something to kind of to temper.
Yeah, wow.
I'm only just scratching the surface here, but it's
I know, but and I can see there's so much depth to this, and I'm sure everybody listening as well. So they go, I know someone like that. You know, I worked, the head of sales in the business. I'm just finished, those kinds of people. So this is amazing. Thank you. And yeah, who else?
Well, I often use it in business, but I've actually done marriage guidance counts around it as well, because often you can, because you can end up with one couple, so you've got somebody who's high magician or somebody who's high architect, and you can see exactly why they're really irritating each other.
Wow, yeah.
And it's easier to say. It's actually, it's his architect that's playing out as opposed to he's a complete sort of whatever.
He's a narcissist. Get rid of it.
It's easier to hear, isn't it? So that's one way of putting it. So then we have the angel as well. So the angel actually wants to help everyone. It's the one that has that reason why, that burning desire to serve and to make a difference. Who doesn't love an angel? The angel will be the one that will step up, will be there at 10 o'clock at night when everybody else has gone home because the job has to be done. Employers love having angels there because they will always give and give and give. And then we tip over into the shadow side because they keep giving and keep giving and keep giving. They burn out.
Yeah.
And sometimes they wonder why it's never their turn. They're the ones that sometimes don't get promoted because they're too useful where they are. Yeah. They're the ones that will feel almost guilty about earning money because other people have got less than they have. So they'll often give away what they have and then wonder why they don't have anything themselves.
Yeah.
It's kind of an interesting one as well.
Yeah, wow.
And then the last one we have is the prisoner, which obviously is just is a bit kind of stuck. It's not fair. Whatever I do makes no difference. What's the point? But it does have a flip side as well, actually, which is more of a liberator. And that can go, enough already. Now we're going to have to change something. This is uncomfortable. So if you use it wisely, you can start to look at what isn't working for your business. What do you need to let go of? What could you be doing differently that would start to make a difference? Wow. And then also what really helps with this is you can understand your target audience better. It really helps with marketing. It really helps with leadership, with your team, with yourself, with other people, with your family. So I think it's got a lot of legs down. I really want to make this into a common language that we all kind of understand, and then we can get to where we're going to quicker.
It's brilliant and really, really good. And congratulations. Obviously, in terms of the avatar side of things, when you're thinking about your marketing audience, like you say, who is it? Who are you here to serve? Why are you setting this business up, and who do you want to see receiving the benefit of as you're selling these things through? And I just think, having those avatars real crystal clear in your mind, knowing yourself and knowing those that you're targeting is really strong. So congratulations.
Thank you.
And in terms of the kind of the usage of these, people can go onto your website, obviously, and find out what they are. What's the website address?
It's very originally my name, oliviastefanino.com. Who'd have thought?
Thank you very much for that. And yes, I've tried it. It's really easy. It's like really quick series of questions, and you get some amazing stuff back. In terms of putting this into use, and say somebody does recognize themselves as one of these, or as a dominant one of these particular avatars, what do you think is the kind of the way that they should be thinking about the money side of things? Business is obviously there to make money. It is something that they can that they need to master, really, in terms of being able to make their business have longevity and to grow. Are there particular traits that people should be pursuing?
Yes, good question. And absolutely. So I think and also things to know that not to trip yourself up with. So magicians, for example, are often really good at backing themselves. So they have a high belief in themselves, a high belief in their creativity, and often put all the money that they make back into the business, back into the business again, rather than putting some aside and actually putting into other people, whether it's sort of stocks and shares or anything else, or even into a pension, putting it somewhere else where it can grow, so not everything's resting on them. And actually, I was thinking this morning that, in fact, I wonder whether, who would have thought, putting money aside or into a pension might be the most creative thing that you can do, because you know that you've got that covered. Then you can really focus on what you're doing here now, rather than that kind of leaking energy of, oh, but what if this doesn't work? If this doesn't work, then I'm really messed up. So actually having that freedom of thought, of creativity, because you know you've taken care of the other elements of your life, actually is a good thing. Because you've got a high architect, you probably wonder what it is that I'm talking about. But if you were just magician with nothing else there is always that. It's all in the business, but what happens if it goes wrong? And nobody wants to be thinking, I'm trained in hypnotherapy as well. Nobody wants to be thinking about what could go wrong, because then your mind will start to make that into a reality for you.
I think that's right, and that was one of the questions actually as I went through the through your questionnaire. That was that, you know, what is having money the best form of security or something like that, and I just thought, well, yeah, and that and I guess that kind of that instinctive answer is
Yes.
what you're looking for, you know, but isn't always there.
Yeah.
And I love that idea, the kind of play on, look, you know, actually by being very sensible, you're able to be more creative. You know, so that kind of yin and yang. Do you find that that's something that needs to be trained into people, or do you find that there is, you know, what sort of percentage of people do have that balance?
Only somebody with high architect could ask what kind of percentage of people would have. You see, people leak information all over the place. It's great.
Oh yeah, yeah. I just think in terms of percentages of pretty much everything, right? I've got a whole system here behind me, right? So this is how I architect stuff.
Which I love, because what you've done is you pulled it together with that magician vision. You put the system and process in place, and we can see it behind you. But you also bring enough joker into it to actually make it a fun experience. Otherwise, it would be.
I tell myself.
Dull. Yeah, if it's not fun, we're not playing. And I think that is actually where businesses are going now as well, isn't it? It's down that kind of personality side of things, because we want to feel that there's somebody who gets us, who understands us, who can show us what to do. There's a lot of stuff out there already that we can already access for free. So what is it that we're bringing to it beyond that? It might be that experience that we can get you there faster. We understand, we've been there, we know the pain of where you are, and actually how to take you each step of the way through it. And it becomes a fun thing that you get to share, etc. But and now I've gone so far, I've done a whole magician thing of actually forgetting what the question was. So I apologize with that.
No, at all. I was thinking as you were talking there about the idea of this kind of hyper-personal touches, right? And I fundamentally agree with you that niching is the way forward. Everyone's got to think of it. And there's a concept, isn't it? I can't remember if it was Malcolm Gladwell or somebody else, about 1,000 true fans. You know, so actually all you need really is 1,000 people who really love everything you do. All right, and that's almost where I spend a lot of time kind of starting out. It's like, look, think about that group, and then just, you know, chase them down, go find them, you know, wherever they hang out. Yeah. And that really is a factor of, as you've kind of discussed, like your kind of personality type and who you serve, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's about understanding who you are and who your audience is as well, because I think you can cut and dice things in all sorts of ways. So, you know, we know it's about market, media, and message, don't we? So, you know, what is it that you're doing, and how are you connecting that with your marketplace, and how are you going to articulate that? What is the irresistible offer that you bring to it that other people don't bring to it? Who is it for, and how do you connect in with them? But I think we can cut and dice things in all sorts of ways as well. So it's not just that they're business owners, but a magician business owner is a very, very different animal to somebody that is high architect. So they're going to want different things out of it. So I think you need to know who you are, so that you can understand the types of people who are going to resonate with you. And we know that if we like somebody, when we trust, you know, we're more likely to trust them. Yes. So you want to find people of your own tribe, and it's not just the what you do, but it's the how you do it, how you think, how you shape people's thinking as well. I think makes sort of a massive amount of difference. I remember, yeah. Sorry, because I remember your question now, which was actually about sort of money and the different types there as well, about money in your business. And I think with jokers, it's going to be a lot about making sales. They're very good at growing the business, but actually stuff can fall off the back unless you've got a high architect there, because they may not have thought about, are there enough people to deliver this? How is this going to deliver this? As we get more clients, they're often over-promising, under-delivering, and can get a bad reputation from that. So it's about starting out with the end in mind as to how you're going to make sure that delivery is there, so that you get to do as the Joker only what you love doing, which is just going out there and marketing it. So it's about thinking of those things as well. And I do think there's something really important about, backing yourself all the way, but also putting money somewhere else too, so that you do have not all of your eggs in your own business basket, because things happen. Who'd have thought COVID would have come along? Although we do know that something happens every 10 years or so, but it's a great opportunity or not, depending on your attitude.
That's right. And almost, if you are the Joker, then you are employing somebody. If you can't necessarily master the skills of saving money, what you need is somebody who is ruthlessly risk averse, shall we say, who's just saying, no, the percentage of that has to be clawed into this particular reservoir for just such a COVID moment and so on. Fascinated by you talking about the kind of people that you wanted to serve as well. By seeking out the people who are like you and that you kind of get as well, it makes business a bit more fun as well, right?
Right. If business isn't fun, I'm not playing. I've come to that conclusion a long time ago.
You spent so much time doing it.
Yeah.
Why not find a niche and a group of people that actually you entertained by and you can entertain and it's fun.
Yeah, and actually you're growing together, aren't you? Because you're all partnering in a way. Even if you've got more that they want to know now, you get to learn from where everybody else is as well, and it becomes a cross-pollination, doesn't it, of ideas. Well, that will work really well over here. Particularly if you've got that magician approach to it, because you kind of absorb it all, so it becomes almost, you embody it, so that you can then start to apply it to other situations, or even applying it back to the clients that you have. So it just cross-pollinates, and that's the part of the gold that you carry, really.
Yeah, fantastic. And it all becomes your idea as well, which is great. I don't remember anything. So just a quick couple more questions. I can't let you go without asking. You mentioned Richard Branson, interviewing him. What did you get? What was the goss? What was something that was real? What surprised you in all seriousness? What surprised you about the interview with Sir Richard?
Actually, that he was a very, very down to earth, not the kind of person that you necessarily see. I think he's possibly somebody that is great at playing to the gallery, great at, he's a smart cookie, don't get me wrong. And obviously he knows his strength, which is actually being that high joker. This is before the money types came out, so I haven't put him through that. It was a long time ago. But he would have a high magician, high joker. Where he's so smart is that he's also put in place a number of people to run each of those businesses, and they will have a high magician architect approach to it, so that he knows that he can give this idea and they will take it and run with it. So actually his stock in trade really is that persona, is that ability to create sunshine wherever it is that he is. When he's promoting something, talking about something, people listen, people buy into him, people like him. He's a bit of a maverick. So I think that's the essence of what he kind of brings to business, really. But I don't see that he's actually there doing it all. He's the one that's thinking there and actually being open to that potential. Yeah,
he's off on Necker Island having a nice time.
Until there's a storm. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly right. Brilliant. Olivia, it's been amazing. Thank you so much for your time. Always ask everybody just before we go, and it's been quite it's been less of an exciting question in lockdown. What are you up to for the rest of the day?
Up to for the rest of the day? Well, building the rest of my life, really. That's a magician answer, isn't it? So actually looking at, I've got a couple of joint ventures that we're literally just sort of starting on. So it's about sort of weaving those together and writing my next book. The trouble with being a magician is that you try and do it all at once, but there's still only 24 hours in the day. So I think the better answer might be, I'll tell you when I've done it.
Let's see what happens. Love it. Olivia, thanks so much for your time. Anybody that wants to discover more about the Money Types Guidebook with Olivia Stefanino, oliviastefanino.com is where you need to go. That's it for this week. I hope you've got something to go this week out to with your growth execution ideas. I'm Mel McCallion. Anything else you need, obviously check us out on the Growth Execution group. Great to have you with us. Look forward to catching up again